It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling and so much more. Join us as we go beyond the slipstream. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on bike races, movies, bands, and all manner of shiny pop cultural objects. Oh, and did I mention bike races? We're kind of obsessed. Allez! Hello and welcome to Beyond the Slipstream. I'm Matt and this is my brother Justin, and today in our first segment we will be taking a close look at all of the desert racing action from the Women's UAE Tour, which as we speak will be finishing in around 15 short minutes. We'll also dig into the racing action from France and Spain this week in our second segment with reviews of Etoile de Besseges and the Volta a la Comunitat Valenciana. And in our third segment it's USA as we discuss the outlook and prospects of all of the Americans racing at World Tour level in 2025. And as always, we'll finish it up with a spin around town in the Broom Wagon. Allez! Please note this segment will contain spoilers. If you haven't had a chance to watch the race yet and wish to remain unspoiled, please jump to segment 2 now. The Women's UAE Tour just finished up with a convincing GC win for Eliza Longoborghini at her new team UAE Team ADQ, and a perfect 3 for 3 in the sprint stages for Lorena Vibas of SD Works. Justin, were you as blown away by the racing this week in the Emirates as you were by the perfectly manicured surrealist environs of this Arabian paradise?
I thought it was good racing for sure. Especially stage 3. I really enjoyed stage 3. I think you're absolutely correct. I think it is surreal. The environment, it's very different than anything that you're kind of see throughout the year. A lot of headwinds and crosswinds and, working with the echelons. So, it's very different. And then, as far as like the broadcast is concerned, the visuals were just crazy. I just feel like every day there's something, even though they're out in the middle of the desert, so every day there's something really interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at the race, if you take the race as a whole, I mean, it's essentially 3 sprint stages and 1 mountain stage. So there's only so much excitement that you're going to be able to, drag out of this race. Given that, though, I think it did give us some good stuff. First of all, we learned that Lorena Vibas is on form and the same Lorena Vibas that she's been for the past 2 years. There's no question about that. And then the other big takeaway, I think, would be ELB looking strong. I mean, she had a great year last year. She's at a new team, and she comes in and delivers a big win. And this is, I mean, I would say outside of the Tour de France, for these petrodollar countries that are sponsoring bike races, they want to win their home tour. That's a big thing. We've talked about how image conscious these countries are, and they are not in this for the money or anything else. They are looking for prestige, and so winning your home tour with your home team, massive. And for her to come into that team and right off the bat take that win, that is going to do very well for her psyche, for the team psyche. Like it's just talk about starting on the right foot.
Well, and I feel like she had a really strong race. I mean, she in stage 2, she was part of the like a 5-woman breakaway that went pretty much the whole way, right? I mean, I think they went all the way, but Wiebes ends up taking the stage win, but she looks strong, man. Like,
Oh yeah,
didn't necessarily have to do that work that day, but she was part of that breakaway. And then when they get to stage 3, she, pulls it out kind of at the end and makes that. It was a really good attack. I feel like she caught everybody slipping on that attack, and she took off and puts 2 minutes in and pretty much wraps it up on day three, because I mean there really wasn't any threat to it today, as far as I could see. It looks like there were some accidents and stuff before I picked up watching it, but they it was a really good dominant tour. And you're absolutely right about your point about these these petro countries that with the racing, because I believe Pogacar is actually going to be in the UAE tour this year. I think that's his first
Yeah,
race of the year.
I think he will be in the UAE tour every single year that he is racing for that team.
Yeah.
Like, I bet you that I would not be surprised if that wasn't like a part of his contract. Like, you are racing our home race, period. Um, I I don't know that I agree with you when you say that she caught people, what that ELB caught people sleeping when she made that attack. I don't think anybody could keep up with her. I mean, you watch her ride. I mean, it was definitely an explosive attack, but in essence, it was almost a ride away. Like, she attacked, nobody did a thing, and within like 10 seconds, I mean, that was a tight group of six, I think like 6 or 7 riders, and 10 seconds after she's gone, that whole thing was exploded. Nobody could hang with anybody. It was done. And I think, I mean, it was almost Pogacar-esque in how clear it was from very, very early into that attack that she had that thing sewn up. I mean, nobody was making up any ground. She looked cool as a cucumber, um,
I also think they
completely
knew
unfazed.
exactly where to do that.
Yeah, that was just a bossing. Um, and going back to stage two, I also agree that, like, so impressive the way she got herself into that front group there. And I mean, they put out a lot of work to stay ahead that day, massive expenditure of energy, but she had two teammates with her. I mean, it's almost like UAE is the same on the women's side as they are on the men's side. I mean, she's up there with two teammates in a group of five. So more than half of that group is her team, and she just gives her that nice little bumper on the GC, on all the GC rivals, and she doesn't care. She's not trying to win the stage. She's got bigger objectives in the race, executed perfectly. Very convincing. I love seeing this because I love me some ELB.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that it bodes well for her. Moving on, I think we talked a little bit off mic about these these super teams, and I think in her case, going over there to this team is going to give her a big bump in her Q rating, as far as thing. Not that she, I mean, she did win the Giro last year and she didn't really need a bump in the Q rating, but I think that she is clearly the star of this team. And you're right, coming out right out the gate, first race of the year for her, first thing. It's the home race for her team, and she takes the victory. Chapo, man, Chapo, big time, man.
Yeah, I mean, she's
What
got a
a
massive team.
great
She's got
win.
a massive team behind her. She's already proven that she can beat Demi Vollering on a mountain
Absolutely.
stage. She's done it on a climb. She's done it. She did it in Tour of Flanders last year. So, she's unafraid. I mean, she's unafraid of the biggest riders in the peloton, um, and she's proven that she can beat them. And now she's on a team. She's already cemented herself with the team. She won the home race. Like, she's good to go. So now she is just like comfortable going into this season, relaxed, unflappable, and it bodes so well. Um, Stage three, Jebel Hafit. That is just a badass climb. Like, it's
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
we get Tour Down Under, we get our Wollonga, then boom, we rolling right into the Middle East section of the year, and it's Jebel Hafit. It's just as iconic. It's insane to look at. I mean, when you get
Yes.
these wide shots, you see this, like, it looks like a snake laying across the top of the mountains. The way this road is just like, it's
In the
so.
way that it like dominates the landscape around, you know what I mean? It's this thing that kind of rises out of the desert sea, so to speak. It's really, again, like you said, the visuals this week have been really really crazy because there's just so many different, especially architecturally speaking. I mean, I think that's one of the things that really stands out is that architecturally speaking, you get so much to feast your eyes on, throughout the race as they go through these different spots. Like especially today in Abu Dhabi, there's just, I mean, helicopter shot after helicopter shot of just amazing, beautiful architecture.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we've talked about it before. The whole concept of sports washing, and I'm not a big fan. I do not like the politics of these countries, um, and I don't mind saying that. But at the same time, this is part of professional cycling. These are races. My favorite riders are going to these things. I'm not going to make some kind of like political stand and like not watch them. I'm going to watch them. I'm a journalist. I'm covering I'm covering professional cycling. Um, but that said, some of the you know good things that come from these types of regimes are, as you said, these perfectly manicured environs of it's just everything looks so pristine and perfect, and it's just visually very interesting because we get this for a very small period of time in the year, and then it's on to Western Europe and the stuff that we're more used to seeing, which is also stunning, and we love it, and is a big part of why we watch the racing. But it is fun to be given this visual feast. I mean, it must be surreal to be a rider, um, racing in these places. Um, I loved the way the development in the foothills of Jebel Hafit was just like this like green blanket like laid around the base of the mountain, and then you get to the stop point where they're no longer installing sprinklers past this point, and it's just a clear, like it is like it goes from like emerald green to like clay brown in a just just perfectly clear line there, and it looks amazing.
It reminds me of that. What's the iconic climb in the Tour de France where they go up and it's like once you get to a certain level, it like looks like the moon.
Yeah, the surface of the moon. What is that? The
Is it It's not Alpe d'Huez. It's
nah,
Col de
I can't think of
Grenon.
it right now. Maybe
Uh, anyway, but yeah,
Tourmalet, maybe.
now here
Um,
let me ask you, since you mentioned about these oil rich countries. Obviously, look, they're investing in this sport. All right, I mean they're investing in all sports, but they're investing in the sport. Would you be mad if there was an American billionaire that was pumping money into cycling and trying to get races in the U.S.? Because I feel like, as much as I might not care for that person, I would not mind there being more races in the United States.
yeah, I mean, well, I mean, it depends on that American billionaire was. I mean, if you're saying like if Jeff Bezos decided to go all in on cycling and created some like juggernaut American cycling team and created like an American stage race, the Amazon tour of Silicon Valley or whatever. I don't know. Like, would I be into it? I guess, yeah, I would. I mean, at some point you have to separate your politics from your fandom in a way if you want to have the fandom. I mean, this is just a reality of the world. And do I wish it was better? Yeah, there's a zillion things in the world that I wish were better. People would do better, but I'm gonna take what I can get because I'm a
I'm
fan of
with
the
you.
sport.
I'm
Um,
with you. I feel the exact same way. It's like, personal politics aside, I would happily see more stuff happen because I also think that we lose out on some of the iconic views and vistas of the U.S. by not having a big U.S. race. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
but
still shame.
so UAE, just UAE tour, just what a great
Here's the Here's the question you should have asked.
Okay.
Would I be cool if they brought back the Tour de Trump?
Is that a thing?
Yes, back in the 80s, there was a Tour de Trump. Trump was into cycling. Let that filter through your love of the sport.
Can we? All right. That needs to be a topic. We need to talk about this more in
Tour de
depth.
Trump.
The
All right,
Tour de Trump.
I'll add it to the list. Yeah.
That's a
Need any more
crazy
hair.
way to finish this off. You just blew my mind. I had no idea.
Yeah.
But to wrap it up, Elisa Lamborghini, great win. Hopefully, there's going to be even more, to watch this year. And like I said, I think that as the Grand Tours start to unfold, I think that her being on this team will help her have an advantage to possibly winning one of those Grand Tours and really taking on Demi Vollering and all the other big names that are going to be in contention for the GC. So I think
A lot of Kopecky.
Yeah, a lot of Kopecky.
And Anna van der Breggen.
Yeah, Anna van der Breggen. Cassie
and
Oma. Yeah.
Last year's winner.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Well, we're going to finish it out there. And unfortunately, since our video seems to not be working, I can't record this for video posterity, but I'll finish the segment out especially for you, since you see me. Stick around. We'll be right back. Please note, this segment will contain spoilers. If you haven't had a chance to watch the race yet and remain unspoiled, please jump to segment 3 now. This week saw early season stage racing in France and Spain with the Etoile de Besseges and the Volta a la Comunitat Valenciana. The races gave us plenty to discuss, with some sprinting, some climbing, and more than enough cars intruding onto the racecourse. Justin, Bessege GC winner Kevin Vauquelin, Team Arkea, announced himself on stage last year in a big way, with a second at Flèche Wallonne, followed by a magnificent stage win at the Tour de France. Is he the best thing to happen to Arkea in ages?
I would say absolutely. I mean, he's about the only exciting thing on that team right now. Yeah, I mean, he looked really good in the stage yesterday on Saturday. Really, really, really strong. Took a late run on the Peloton, and made a really, really, really great solo victory. The race itself, was not terribly exciting, but he was definitely a bright spot in a very unique race. There was a lot going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these early season stage races are sort of, sometimes it'll play out that there's not a whole lot of competition for the guy who wins. I mean, we'll be talking Valenciana here after we talk about this race, and it was kind of the same thing where, like, you could just tell Buitrago way stronger than everybody else, and when it came to the climbs, the GC. In this race, Vauquelin just way stronger than everybody else. I mean, yesterday when he made his move, he had an enormous gap inside of like a minute.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's like, and it's like
gone.
So while it can be a gauge of like, okay, this guy's for real. It's as if each one of the races introducing another piece to the puzzle of who will actually be challenging the big guys in the Grand Tours. You know what I mean? This like bodes well. Like I'm officially excited to see what Buitrago is going to do in the Grand Tours that he goes to, and what Vauquelin's going to do, because Vauquelin, I've already proved that he can win a Tour de France stage. So he's the real deal. And Buitrago, don't recall if he's won a tour stage, but I know he's won a Grand Tour stage. I'm pretty sure he won like a Vuelta stage at one point. So,
I
yeah,
also, I also
good to
like
see.
seeing the fact that, a team like Arkea, who really needs, wins, gets one. I like the fact that it wasn't a one-off big name rider from a big team that just came in and kind of swept out and stole the show. I like the fact that it was the biggest rider on their team, but it was a smaller team that was able to dominate and have a good race.
Love it. I absolutely love it. And looking up Buitrago, he has won 2 stages at the Giro, in addition to
So
some other stuff.
that's the racing. Let's talk about the other kind of big story that was going on in this race, and it's that rider safety.
Yeah, it's just like here we go again. Um, you had on 2 successive days, I think stage 1 and 2, um, cars intruding onto the race course. Case
I believe we had in stage 2 and 3 you had cars moving on the race course, and then on stage 1 you had cars that were like parked in the race course.
right. The one, well, I'm aware of the parked ones, and I heard someone saying that the race officials saying something about how that person had put their car there. They asked them to move the car twice, and the people didn't move the car, and I guess they didn't have the resources to get like a tow truck in there to get it out of the way in time, or what. I don't know if it was a timing thing or a resources thing, why it wasn't just like moved. One would assume that, like, if somebody is not moving their car like in the Tour de France, that thing's getting scooped up and like it's not going to be there. You know what I mean? Like, this would never happen in a bigger
100%.
race. So that, and then that sort of leads to the other one that I was aware of, was like the Mini Cooper that like had come up, made a right turn, and driven onto the race course in the direction in the direction of the approaching peloton. Um, the shot that you saw on the broadcast was the Cooper like backing, like riding in reverse, with the lead motorcycles that are right in front of the peloton, like trying to push it out of the way. Um, and I'm pretty sure what happened there is it's just that like the race organization does not have the resources to put a gendarme on every single road that you go past. There's too many of them. There's literally hundreds of them. And they rely on a lot of volunteer, believe it or not, these smaller races, like the president of that, the organizer of that race was like quoted as saying like, we're a volunteer organization. Like we just don't have the people. Like it's just not possible to police every single one of those. And we do what we can, but occasionally something like this is going to happen. Somebody's just clueless. They have no idea what's going on. And,
I
you know, they,
the
not saying
comment
it's an excuse, but
I I purposely listened to the beginning of the broadcast yesterday or today or no, yesterday, where they talked specifically about the logistics of it and the fact that, in the smaller race, you have basically this bubble that kind of follows the peloton, and, you can't, you know what I mean? You're right. You can't police at all. In the Tour de France, it's like they close roads for 4 hours. Like the roads are closed. Like
yeah,
you're not getting through. It's very different, and
but even,
it's definitely
even
a
then though,
resource thing.
even with a closed road, if you happen to live along that road, I'm just like picturing a scenario where it's like you live on that road, you're laying in bed, you're asleep the day the Tour de France is coming by. Just I can't imagine that there would be a single person that would be asleep in bed when the Tour de France. But let's say, and you know what I mean? Like I feel like not only will the Tour de France close the road, but they will have at least some kind of body at every
Yes,
single
yes.
place where it
And
goes past the road.
that's the difference, that it's a resource thing. Now, you know, so you have this happen, and then after day 3, essentially half the race decides not to go on. They're like, it's too much. We're not going to risk our safety, and going into stage 4, the Peloton's cut in half. Not to mention they had horrible weather for 2 out of the 4 days or 5 days or whatever it was. How do you feel about the riders just being like, yeah, we're done. We're wholesale leaving. I guess some teams gave their riders choices to stay and some decided to stay, but there were a few teams that absolutely just pulled out. Ineos, Soudal, Decathlon, EF, and Red Bull, Unibet, and Uno all left the race over safety.
I mean, I am perfectly fine with it because number one, I'm into safety. I think safety is and number two, that's not a decision that the Peloton is taking lightly. These guys want to race. This is their livelihood. This is their entire lives. Same thing with the teams. If you decide to drop out a race that is continuing on, well, then those are a whole bunch of points that you are not going to get. You know what I mean? So it's not a decision that is being taken lightly. If they make that decision, you better believe there's probably good reason that they're out there looking at this going, this is not safe, and I can't freaking blame them because it's not the Tour de France. You know what I'm saying? It's Etoile de Besseges in
Right.
February. It's a long season ahead of them, and I can't believe it. Part of me is just like, how is it not possible for these race organizations? I mean, even though it's a smaller race, there's going to be some 10, 12, 15 odd cars like riding in front of the Peloton, as the race makes its way on down the road. And there's going to be a bunch of cars in the back, an ambulance, wagon, and everything else. How is it not possible to just have like one car, like a team of people in it that's going 10 feet ahead of the, 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers ahead of the race and putting up little makeshift, like 2 little pins in the ground and a little piece of tape that goes across it. You know what I'm saying? It's like stab, throw the piece of tape across it. It's already been pre-printed that says race coming through, do not enter race course, blah, blah, blah. Like
Right.
it just seems like how difficult could that be? I don't know. And because that's the other thing that protesting. Yeah, you can protest bad weather. There's no one to blame for that. Weather's going to happen and, they're going to make that decision. But the other thing is just the safety of the course. And you have no way of really knowing if you should be protesting that or not. That's a thing that can't be left up to the riders and has to be handled by the UCI. And it's a tough thing to handle. What are you going to do? Find the organization that you're going to take money away from an organization that's already.
Yeah,
I don't know.
If you start doing that, the race just won't exist. I mean, we see how how things like that have happened over here in the States with some of these smaller races that are actually sanctioned. It was interesting too that even within obviously it's a smaller race, even within 2K in the first stage, it was like they were on a farm road. You know what I mean? It was like you're not even in a town at that point, and
yeah. And that's cool. I mean, it's super cool to get the race on roads like that. It's super. It's a.
I know.
If it was easily solvable, they would have solved it literally decades ago. So, we don't have a ton of time, but let's talk a little bit about about Valenciana with our boy Rob Hatch on the commentary.
He's so good, right?
Yeah, I loved in stage 1 that was won by Lidl Trek, who also took stage 5, that we watched just a little while ago with the Jonathan Milan win. I loved how they had 4 different national champions on that team. They're like the jerseys all together at the beginning of the stage are just like so. I absolutely love seeing national champions jerseys mixed in and among a team, and they had 4 of them, and they had that before too, because I remember taking a picture of a screen grab at some point last year. It was this really cool shot where you saw further riders kind of diagonal. It was a head-on shot, and I remember Skelmos was one of them. He was in the Swiss one, right? Yeah. Swiss,
yep.
And then there was 3 others behind him, so that was cool.
So, I mean, we could, as far as stage 1, it was a team time trial. snooze. Stage 2, Tobias Foss. Wow. Like,
Yeah.
what, like, I was rooting for him so hard. I wanted him to get that win so bad. He ended up getting caught with like 6 to go, or 6.3. So yeah,
Kill,
it was sad,
Killer
but
tactics
yeah,
from Bahrain on that one, with Bilbao setting up Buitrago just like perfectly. I mean, Bilbao, you're watching like, oh, this guy's got it, man. He's like crushing. And then like Buitrago put the jump on his guy and closed to Bilbao in like 10 seconds and
yeah.
was gone. I would love to like have that access to that microphone, like right when the teammates go past each other like that, to hear what they say. All right, man, go get it, man, go get that thing, man. But I mean,
That's
Buitrago, like I was saying earlier,
yeah.
else.
The
I mean, he in
Go
both
ahead.
of his
Sorry.
wins, he just like blew past people.
Yeah. That's also the day where I started to like go, okay, why isn't João Almeida, making more of an effort? I don't know if he didn't have the legs or what, but I felt like, the race to me, the race was lost there, fully.
Yeah,
Like I feel like
100%.
he didn't.
Ask Chris Horner. Ask
Yeah.
Chris Horner why. He'll tell you.
Yeah.
He Almeida was like completely out of position. I mean, with like 15 Ks to go, he was like way back, and then managed to get himself back up towards the front with when they were under 10, and then just when it mattered most, going into the very end of the finish, he was nowhere. I mean, he should have been locked on Buitrago's wheel.
Yeah.
I mean, that was already very apparent from the stage 2, Buitrago's stage 2 win. I mean, that was the guy, clearly.
Yeah.
And so I would say Almeida shit the bed
Yeah.
in that case.
Ivan Romeo winning on the uphill finish on stage 3. I loved that.
Yeah, Movistar, man. They're like
Yeah, they were all
they're
over that race.
they're taking the bull by the horns this year. So
Yeah, no, I'm glad to see it.
all right, well,
Stage.
we need to cap it off there, unless you got some.
No, I mean, again, it's so it's funny. On both two and 4, I have the same notes about what happened to João Almeida. Oh, I know. I do have one other note. Ben O'Connor does look good in purple, baby. I think that's going to be. I don't think he had the form this week, but I think that's going to be a good move for him being on that team.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I hope that this organization kind of gets their acts together and stuff. The very historic race, it's been going on 71, and there's some huge names list of winners from this thing. So let's hope for the best for this thing in years to come. We will leave it there and be right back. While the state of World Tour racing in the United States is a disaster, with great races such as the Tour of California and Tour of Utah going the way of the dinosaur in recent years, American cyclists themselves have been kicking butt and taking names at the World Tour level in recent years. From Sepp Kuss's Vuelta a España win in 2023 to Kristen Faulkner's magnificent gold medal in Paris in the women's road race last year, there's been no shortage of American success in the pro peloton. For our final segment today, we're going to go in depth and consider the prospects of each and every American rider racing at World Tour level in 2025. So buckle up. Justin, there can be only one starting point for you in this discussion. Talk about your boy, Matteo.
I love this guy. I follow him on Instagram. He's got a great Instagram, but he's like off to training, so he's basically going to be off it for a month.
We should say we're talking about Matteo Jorgensen from
yeah.
Team Visma Lisa Bike.
Absolutely. Two great Americans on Visma Lisa Bike with his teammate Sepp Kuss, but I mean, last year he took Paris Nice, huge win for him. I think there's nothing but upside for a guy like Matteo. I think that moving from Movistar over to uh, V Lab is one of the better moves that you could make. I think that they really know how to utilize him, and I think that he is going to be a big factor in if they can beat Pogacar. I think the way that they are excuse me building that team up right now, it's designed to be able to take a GC battle, and he's going to be a key factor in it. But I love the way that Visma does a great job of like giving these guys things that they can win themselves. Like, yes, we want you to be part of the team, but we can also give you these wins. And so it's great for me as an American cycling fan to be able to watch these really great American riders like be able to be competitive as well as also help these bigger riders win grand tours, and they are
Uh,
all over the place. I mean, Americans are scattered all through the pro peloton. Who do you have your eyes on that you're really
well, co- commenting on um, Visma Lisa bike, I mean that's a good place to start with both of those two like big time American stars there. I think it's gonna be fascinating watching what that team does. I feel like they're like the Ineos of 2019. You know, they were coming off all this like massive success, total dominant year in 2023, and then 2024 was kind of a hot mess in a way. Um, and they got all the pieces to the puzzle there now. You know what I mean? It's going to, but when you say like giving riders chances, I mean, that team seems to be all in for the Tour de France as well. They should be. They've got as good a chance of anybody as winning it. Um, and I have to believe that Matteo Jorgensen is going to be a part of that picture. And yet he is a young guy with big prospects, and he is going to want to be getting his chance for a little glory, a stage win on the world's biggest stage. So it can be very interesting watching how they manage all that this year.
there's a
Um,
lot of big personalities on that team to manage and
yeah, and they're going to be hungry after last year. Um, well, let's for me on my side, let's go over to the women's side uh, and start with Olympic road race champion Kristen Faulkner on Team EF Education Oatly. Um, Nothing but upsides for her. I mean, she's definitely one of the top. I'd say top two. I think it's like her and Chloe Dygert that are kind of our top two American riders at this moment in time. Um, she's got stage wins. She's got two stage wins in the Giro. She's got a stage win in the Vuelta, plus stage wins in the Scandinavia, Tour de Suisse, Tour de Ardèche. She's won Omloop. I mean, those are all enormous wins. Um, and the big one that's missing, I think I mentioned this in an earlier show from a couple weeks back, is the Tour de France win, stage win. So hopefully she'll be part of the Tour de France picture
yeah,
for this year for
I
that
think it'd be
team.
hard for that team to leave her off there. Just considering. Um, I feel like Chloe Dygert's in that same position of she's got a lot of great wins on her Palmares, but also missing that elusive kind of feather in her cap of the Tour de France.
Mm-hmm.
Now I will say that Chloe Dygert has looked strong as death the last few weeks, um, down in Australia. So I feel like I just think she's gonna have a big year. You know what I mean? I think across the board, I think that she is poised to have a really really great year, and so I want to see Chloe Dygert live up to that expectation. Like as a fan of American cycling, I want to see her. I want to see what we saw flashes of in Australia. I want to see it in in play over
I'm
the next few months.
I'm dying to see what EF Oatly's Tour de France team is because
Mm-hmm.
looking over the list of riders on this team. I mean, you've got, in addition to the two we were just talking about, uh, Faulkner and Dygert. No, wait, Chloe Dygert's not on that team. What am I talking about? I still
She's
have,
on Canyon Tram.
yeah, I still have Faulkner on the brain.
Yeah.
Um, but they've got EF has Naomi Rug, the very recent winner of the Tour de TDU. Um, they've also got Lada Hentlada. She just won this stage. And the
They have
race we talked about last week.
Allison Action Jackson, baby. Let's
They
go.
got Action Jackson, um, and another American, Veronica Ewers. So yeah, they got a bunch of good people on the team. Sarah Roy, Megan Armitage. Um, yeah, all right. Pick somebody. You pick someone from the women's side now.
Um, well, Ruth Edwards is pops to mind as somebody on a pro or what. I'm so bad about these things. That human powered health would be considered a pro level tour or a pro tour level team.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, I love seeing these smaller team riders be able to pull things off. So anytime I see her pop up in something that I'm watching, I'm always rooting for her. I think that that's that. I mean, that's the tough thing about being an American cycling fan is you end up having people that you love on all these different teams because you're like, oh, I really want an American to win. And so you do. You end up kind of, you know, finding these smaller teams and rooting for these smaller teams and in bigger positions. So I definitely feel like she's one that I am personally always is on my radar. And if I hear that name mentioned, I'm like all about it.
Yeah, and that team is they're doing pretty well. They had a lot of success. I'm pretty sure they won the Cadell's women's race, and they were in the mix in Down Under, uh, to a great degree.
When you have the likes of Kopecky and Vollering and these types, when you get to these bigger races, these smaller teams just get overshadowed and outmatched. And so especially in these earlier parts of the year where you can get you get a lot more variety. It's fun to be able to watch, and look for Americans, especially this time of year.
Yeah. All right. So this conversation certainly wouldn't be complete without um, a mention of Brandon McNulty, currently racing in Valenciana. He is the GC defending champion in Valenciana.
He's also the
Um,
current time trial, American time trial jersey holder.
yes, he's won the Crow race. He's won the Tour of Sicily. He's won stages in Grand Tours, other stage races. Um, Total bad boy. Uh, and I have no doubt that he will be an essential part of their plans this season. Um, I mean, we all know that team is just so stacked. It's I don't know. It's
Do
hard to
you,
say anything other than Pogacar will definitely be at the Tour de France because they could kind of do anything with any race and have a reasonable chance of coming out on top.
so do you think that a guy like McNulty gets swallowed up on a team that has the likes of Jao Almeida and Juan Ayuso and Itzhak Del Toro and Adam Yates, and also with another 5 to 10 amazing domestiques. Does it become harder for a guy like McNulty to distinguish himself when you have that much star power around you? You know what I mean? I just wonder if ultimately at the end of the day that these guys are served better being on a team with all these superstars around them, or if they would be better off, being the superstar on a smaller team.
Uh, it's an age-old question. I think that if I'm Brandon McNulty, um, Number one, I am a time trial specialist. In addition to other things, I'm a time trial specialist. And that is a discipline that no matter what, uh, if you are riding at a grand tour in support of somebody else, but you're also a time trial specialist, then you can legitimately go out there and try to win that time trial as you should. You know what I mean? Like there's no sacrificing yourself in an ITT. You go out there and you get the best thing. So in that sense, I think built into the ITT specialists experience as a pro rider is a steady stream of opportunities for individual glory where a mountain domestique might not be able to you know have those kinds of opportunities. um I feel like the the smart teams are able to find ways to give individual riders um their opportunities. uh and I definitely know that being on a team that is winning a lot is just good for you, even if you're not the one getting it, because number one, you're getting paid more, you're getting bonuses after bonuses after bonuses, and the
This is true.
vibes, there's just job fulfillment in this, assuming you're not having personal problems or whatever, because the vibes are just going to be better on a team like that that's always winning. um, and that winning breeds more winning. It breeds confidence, and those are sort of intangible things that you can't really put a price tag on for riders. But so
No, I think that's
I
a
would
really
think
good
that
point.
Brandon McNulty would be pretty happy where he's at. I would think most of the guys on that team, unless you are absolutely like a guy that has a reasonable shot at winning the Tour de France, um, you should be pretty happy being on the team with perhaps the greatest bike rider of all time.
um,
I mean, think about that when you're talking about like your long-term legacy, to be able to say that, I was there, there helping Tadej Pogacar win XYZ race, in some year or whatever. You'll be able to carry that in your pocket for the rest of your life.
yeah, this
He's
is
the
very true.
greatest of all time.
Um, Couple other ones that I don't want to miss mentioning, at least in just a small amount. Uh, Magnus Sheffield. I feel like Magnus Sheffield has been having a good start to his year. Uh, your best friend
Yes,
Nielsen Palace. Always love watching Nielsen win anything.
my my good
And
buddy.
I am looking for Quinn Simmons to have a bounce back year. He was sick last year for most of the season. I'd really like to see him have a bounce back year and see if he can make some magic happen. I know that those are guys that I really like, and I know that you like Larry
Larry
Warbass.
Warbass
Yeah.
on tutor this year, and yeah, I was going to mention him because he is often a guest on the cycling podcast, the Daniel Freeb show, and like he'll like during grand tours he'll want to be one of those guys that pops in like every couple of stages and gives a little report or whatever. And to have him on tutor this year, I'm so excited at getting like a little bit of an inside look at that team. I'm like, I'm beside myself. Like the thought of Hershey and Alaphilippe at the classics has just got my mouth watering. I'm sure we'll talk about that at a
Oh, I'm
later
sure there'll
date.
be a lot of talking.
But yeah, so it's gonna be nice having a little magnifying glass into that team with Larry Warbass for sure. Well, we need to wrap it up there. Um, we did not get to all of the American riders in the Pro Peloton, as the name of this segment suggested. However, I did enjoy that little review. Stick with us. We will be back in a few. All right, we are back, and it's time to take another ride in the Broom Wagon. Justin, what have you got for us this
How's it
week?
going? I wanted to shout out the Butterfly Effect with Chris Horner. Uh, it's his race breakdown YouTube series where he breaks down tactics with within any particular race that he's talking about, but he just is so personable as far as like his delivery of things. He breaks things down in a way that makes it really easy for novices to kind of understand what's going on. And for me, for someone that doesn't have a ton of history with racing, it's really neat to hear someone like him break it down the way that he does, because you get a much better understanding of, what these guys are trying to accomplish and how they're trying to accomplish it. It's just a really, really, really good thing. It's short. They're never really long. I think, 20 minutes is probably the longest ones I've ever seen. Um, and he just has this great personality. He, the way that he like renames, like he kind of, calls people different things instead of calling, Jonathan Milan, he calls him Johnny Milan, and he's got all these like little nicknames that he uses for people. But if you're not watching it and you're into cycling, I definitely recommend it. I know that you and I have talked about it many times. I know you try to keep up with it, but yeah, the Butterfly Effect with Chris Horner on YouTube is so good.
Yes, I completely agree. I pretty much watch every one of those that he puts out during the season. Um, I like he's got interesting pronunciations on certain words and names. He's got some quirky little things that are like his little catchphrases. For one thing, he's always referring to being kicked back on the Chesterfield watching the bike race. Which like it's just like some giant old sofa or something like that. And then he also calls people knuckleheads when people do bad tactics. He's always like, let's talk about the knuckleheads on blah 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 team this week because they got it wrong again. And but like you said, very insightful. I mean, the man knows racing inside and out. Let's face it, he's a former American Grand Tour winner. He won the Vuelta back in the 90s or early 2000s. But he uh and one thing I think is interesting, I watch a lot of the Lantern Rouge recaps as well. We love those guys as well. They must have the right situation setups because they show actual like race footage on their recaps, whereas Chris Horner is only showing still shots
Hmm.
from the feed. And it's kind of funny too how he refers to like what what they're actually showing on the feed. Like he'll be like, and they showed this incredible shot right here where you can see this guy getting ready to launch his thing. He's like, but then they cut to the front of the race, and nobody needs to see that right now because there's nothing going on up there. And when they finally cut back, so but and then they're really good at putting arrows into the still shots. So as he's describing what's happening, it's like arrows will be popping up and moving around. And so on the production side, it's also really good for giving you a very detailed look at how things are actually playing out, like second by second by second in these races.
Yeah.
So I completely agree.
Yeah, if you're not watching it, the Butterfly Effect, please go watch it.
Yeah, and I think it's actually you'll find it like under Chris Horner. So
Yeah, I
just
think
look
it's
up
under
Chris Horner
his
on
YouTube. Yeah,
YouTube.
it's Chris Horner's YouTube channel. That's just his show. He calls the Butterfly Effect. What do you got, Matt?
Okay, for me this week, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to a movie that I watched recently, uh, must watch and absolute masterpiece, and that is The Brutalist. This is directed by Brady Corbet. It stars um, what's his name, Adrian Brody and Guy Pearce.
Love Guy Pierce.
Brody plays a guy who was a renowned architect in Hungary prior to World War II. He's a Jew, and he gets swept up by the um, goes through the Holocaust, comes out the other side, and the movie opens on him like I think it's like him in the boat on the way to America, and then the film is about what happens to him after he gets there, and essentially he meets a wealthy industrialist played by Guy Pearce who becomes his patron, and it follows his journey as like an architect trying to reclaim his livelihood as an architect. Brutalism was a an architectural movement of the time, and he was like one of the pioneers of the movement, etc. uh, Incredible film, broad sweeping, visually stunning, incredible music, and powerful emotional moments that like just really like kind of hit you right in the chest. Um, just beautiful filmmaking. I went theater. I was in the second row. My entire field of vision was just like gobbled up by the screen. I think I'm going to go see it again. I want to see it when it leaves theaters because it was really, really a magnificent film. So, big recommendation this week for The Brutalist. See it in theaters if at all possible. And that is all for this week. Join us next week for more French and Spanish road racing recaps at the Tour of Provence and the Classica Almeria. We'll also be discussing our hero and role model, Geraint Thomas, podcaster. And in the wake of Valentine's Day 2025, we'll put our favorite rom-coms under the microscope in a review of the best from this beloved movie genre. Until then, for my brother Justin, I'm Matt Harper. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us again soon for another ride beyond the slipstream. Ale!
Beyond the Slipstream is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Ale!